Hey guys, I'm about to show you some stuff that is going to blow you away. If you are a critical thinking American, if you have half of a brain in your head, if you've paid attention to anything in the last 6-7 years, now let's just make it 3 years, while Trump's been president, but this has been going on for a while, you would know that there are some really stupid people out there, and most people call them liberals. But like, I've never seen anything this blatant before, ever in my life. I've seen people, kind of fib a little and stretch the truth to like kind of further their agenda, but I have never seen government officials flat out lie and conflate and make up just random crazy stories like I've heard today. So Kate Brown decided to do a press conference today with talking about how she's going to bring the Oregon National Guard in to assist with the rioting. She said that they're not going to be like any sort of law enforcement capacity. They're just going to be there in a support role, whatever that means. But then after she went through and then did a little bit blaming Trump about, for everything, she has this commissioner from Portland come on, and it's 6 minutes long, but you got to listen to the whole thing, because she first blames everything on white nationalism and white supremacists, and then goes on this nonsensical rant about Trump. Check this out. Listen to what she has to say, but don't turn it off yet, because there's a lot more coming.
I will turn it over to City of Portland Commissioner Joanne Hardesty.
Thank you, Governor Brown, and thank you very much for answering the call that the City of Portland made. As a city commissioner who was on duty on Friday when the mayor was out of town, I went downtown once I heard the calls for 4 fire engines to go to one site. I knew something big was going on. And when I got downtown, what I realized was that there were 2 types of people that were downtown. There were people that had come downtown to exercise their rights, to be heard by their government. And then there was the other group that had infiltrated the peaceful protester groups and broke off into splinter groups with the sole purpose of destruction of our community. As the person in charge at that time, I felt absolutely not. We have to close this down. Now, anyone who knows me knows I'm normally the one with a bullhorn at a protest, and I am always someone who absolutely respects the public's right to seek redress from their government. But when we allow white nationalists and white supremacists to infiltrate our peaceful protests, and this isn't new, they did the same thing in the 60s, so we know the tactics that are used. When we allow them to infiltrate our legal, rightful protests and then create the kind of chaos and damage in our community, we must make that stop. I was the commissioner on duty that called for the curfew the first night. If I had my way, the curfew would be lifted tonight, but I have fingers and toes crossed, it will be lifted tomorrow, because I am concerned that the public will feel with National Guard and with a curfew that has basically been ignored, that there will be this overpresence of police. I am so grateful to the state police and the superintendent, because tonight won't be the first time that they have assisted us when we have had needs in this community. And I have heard from Chief Fresh that the state police have been real good partners in this effort. But as has Clackamas County and Washington County on various occasions when we've asked them to step in and help us. I want to be crystal clear. We are not entering martial law. We are not going to have armed people on every corner in the city of Portland. We will make sure that the space is there for people to exercise their constitutional rights. And I want to make sure that we don't forget why people are on the street in the first place. People didn't take to the streets so that they could break into an Apple store. People took to the street because people have had enough of the inequality that African Americans experience in this country. Every social determinant of health has Native Americans and African Americans at the bottom. So whether you're talking housing, education attainment, across the board. This has been neglected for too long. Elected officials for too long have paid lip service to equity and equality in our community. And I think what brought this to a boiling point is 3 years of number 45 being blatantly racist and sexist and homophobic and anti-immigrant and anti-refugee. I think this is what finally brought this to a head. When the person in the highest level of government is so disrespectful to the diversity and the equity that makes the United States great, it has allowed these white supremacist worms to crawl out of the woodwork and be seen in the public eye, and to actually become bolder and bolder the more 45 tweets the nonsense that he tweets. It is our responsibility to make sure that everyone in this community is safe. And I want to also especially point out that we have houseless people living on the street. And so imagine someone came into your house and started busting out windows and started throwing things at individuals and started creating violent confrontations that required law enforcement to intervene. You would not like it any more than the people who are forced to live on our street. And so this message is to the protesters who are really about equality, who are really about fixing our broken systems. I see you. I am with you. And I hope we take advantage of this opportunity now when the world is paying attention to not just pay lip service, but to fundamentally look at all our systems. And if they're broken...
Crazy, right? Like, the amount of delusion that this lady is spewing forth, I don't even understand it. I cannot grasp how somebody could be this delusional. Now, my question is, does she really believe it? Now, if she really believes it, then that almost gives a little bit of credit to this next idiot who's a senator for the state of Oregon, who talks a little bit about the Proud Boys. Check out what he has to say.
Disrupt and distract from what the issues are regarding the police and respect. We have folks who have decided to take advantage of things. I think Commissioner Councilor Hardesty was very eloquent in talking about how we know that there are folks who really want us to drift into a fascist system. And I don't use 45, I use *3 as my description of him. But we have folks who want to do that. The good news is we have technological tools available to us and the ability to find out who these folks are who are instigating these things. And I think we're going to be discovering those folks. There are surveillance cameras that we can identify some of the people committing the crimes, and we should proceed to apprehend these criminals as soon as we possibly can. But because this involves a larger context, it's not a reason to shut down public expression of the majority of people. And if we do that, the criminals, or worse, folks like the Proud Boys and the other folks, actually win. We Americans have never let thugs and criminals interfere with the exercise of our freedoms, and we're not going to let them silence us now. We aren't going to follow the guidance of the *3 to turn our weapons against our fellow citizens. We need to make sure that that's how we're going to approach it. I'll end because, frankly, it is difficult for me to talk about this. And I talk an awful lot, but there are some things that trigger a number of responses. I had a King City police officer pull a gun on me while I was in a Channel 8 news car back in the early 90s. And I was a passenger, so the photographer, who was the driver, suddenly saw the barrel of a gun right across his face pointed at me.
Really? The Proud Boys are worse than the criminals. Just a little update for everybody. The guy who's the leader, I guess you could say, of the Proud Boys right now, he is brown. He's Cuban. Yeah, he's a bad type of white supremacist. And not to mention, if you actually look at almost any picture of Proud Boys, like not ones that the media like cut everybody out of and just took a picture of two dudes, and you got the whole original picture, there's a lot of brown and black people there. Because they're not a white supremacist group. They're not a white nationalist group. They really are just a group of guys who like freedom. But, whatever, doesn't fit the narrative. Now, so you heard that. Now let's go on back to the crazy lady and listen to what she has to say about, when she's asked the question. So you said you brought up white nationalists and stuff like that. Can you back it up? Check out what she has to say.
Hi, yeah. Several of you mentioned white supremacists taking advantage of these demonstrations. Someone mentioned Proud Boys. I'm curious if you have specific evidence or proof that there are white supremacy groups that are specifically infiltrating these protests, and what that looks like.
Yes. In fact, we've seen pictures of some of the Proud Boys that are regular visitors to our great city, actually down at protests over the last 3 days. There's been a lot of pictures posted of Proud Boys and white supremacists on Facebook and in other locales. I can tell you in my conversations and briefings with the police chief, they have acknowledged that there are agitators who are there solely for the purpose of creating chaos. And so there's no question, not just here in Oregon, but all over the nation. And I can't prove that it is an attempt to disrupt our election cycle, but I do think it is a nationally orchestrated effort to interrupt our November elections.
Liar. Liar, liar, liar. You know what? Maybe she's not lying. Maybe she was just given some really bad information. But I find it very hard to believe and very far-fetched. But if you listen to what the senator, guess who's back, the senator has to say, this is a flat-out lie. 100% lie. And I can prove it. All you got to do is look through any of my footage. I have extensively filmed all of these protests, and never once have you ever seen anybody cross the line, change their clothes. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm going to give it away. Check out what he has to say.
I had until about a couple of months ago tried to attend to as many of the demonstrations downtown as I possibly could. I would sit off to the side and watch and observe who was there and who was not. It was not in an official capacity, but it was something that I thought I could do relatively easily. And what I found over the time was watching some of the folks who were classified themselves as Proud Boys or whatever, disguising themselves and go into a corner, into a side, disguise themselves and put on black hoods and whatever and black things, and then walk into the crowd and try to create problems, try to throw things from the back of the crowd towards the police, try to do all sorts of things, and then go back and join the Proud Boys again as part of their effort. These are the kinds of things that I saw while I was out on the street. Now, I probably would not have gotten a chance to see that as a reporter, because as a reporter, I would have been paying attention to a lot of other different things. But as just an observer, as watching from the side, I saw things taking place that were clearly this group trying to set up agents provocateurs. And I remember a fellow who decided that he was going to try to get us to use C4 in peace demonstrations. in the 60s. We decided to let him know that we were not going to do that. So it is an old story. It's an old approach. It is a tactical approach, and we know that that's what's going on. The question is what we can do about it and how we disrupt the disruptors.
So, like I was saying, never once have I ever seen anybody leave the line, change their clothes, go over to Antifa, throw stuff, go back, change their clothes again, and come back into the Proud Boy side, or Patriot Prayer side, or Second Amendment side, or whatever side that they were on, the Proud Boys were on. These people don't even know what Proud Boys are. They don't even know what Proud Boys look like, especially since they think they're all white supremacists, because they're not all white. First of all, and second of all, are they wearing the polos? You know, when they go change their clothes, are they wearing the polo? And then, so you can still see who they are? Because if you're in pure black bloc, it's really hard to really identify who these people are. So I'm really curious how a lot of this has been, shown and proven on the tapes, and the cameras have picked up pure black bloc, and they're figuring out who's who that way when there's no history of that at all ever. And that yet you have Antifa, who has a history for the last 8 to 12 years where they've been doing this, and they have that history, this proven history, this arrest record that they have that shows this pattern of behavior, unlike the Proud Boys, who don't have that anywhere in the country. Zero. Yes, okay, cool. You've had 4 or 5 Proud Boys arrested in the entire country in the last 3.5 years. Good for you. That we've had a couple hundred or a couple thousand Antifa arrested in the last 3 years. So try again. Push your narrative to people who are stupid. Oh gosh, that's exactly what you're doing, isn't it? You are pushing your narrative to the stupid sheep who don't think critically, who don't pay attention, who don't care. They just go, ooh, yeah, you tell me that. Oh, yeah, racist Proud Boys. Ooh, yeah. They don't care that it's a lie. They don't even know it's a lie because you're supposed to be people that they trust. You work for the government. They're supposed to be able to trust you, and you're a liar. You are what's wrong with this country. You are the reason that people are rioting in the streets because of your lies. Because of your lies. And it's horrible. And it's deplorable. You want to know who the real deplorables are? It's you guys. The Democrat liberal pieces of crap who lie to push a bullcrap agenda to accomplish chaos. To try to bring down a president who has brought this economy to the best it's ever been. And if he stays in office, will recover it better than you could ever imagine. And you hate him for it because all it does is prove that your policies and your methods of doing everything are nothing but failures, as we can see in all of your cities. Yes, Democrats, you're stupid, and you should know it, but you're too dumb to know it. Fix yourselves.